several months ago that may be happening in terms of the deep gas displacing the shallow swamp gas appears to be occurring. The samples below the homes actually have a unique signature. These are the biogenic gas samples. This is swamp gas. These are the thermogenic gas signatures up here. We've now identified below the homes the methane actually looks like landfill gas, and this may come when you knock down vegetation and stuff and build over it or cover over it. It'll start to decay, and you will actually get a distinctly different signature on this diagram for decaying vegetation. That's what we call landfill gas, because that's where it was first classified. So the subslab samples, several of them plot down here in this unique field, and we've got 4 now that are plotting up towards thermogenic. That does not necessarily mean that they're coming from depth. It may be oxidation of the biogenic from acetate gas. So this is a little more complicated. The gas below the slabs, it's not a cut and dried signature that we're finding, and it's going to take some more data to fully evaluate what's going on there. The gas samples from the 2 shallow geoprobe wells are plotting right up here. Up here is thermogenic, and this is where all our cavern gas samples, the ORW samples, a lot of the bubble sites, they all plot up in this thermogenic field. The 2 new samples from the 2 geoprobe wells I told you about, these are down about 30 feet, are actually plotting up here now in the thermogenic field, and you can see on this diagram they're right in amongst all the vent wells and all the cavern gas. The other thing is, there's a new bubble site that's been identified up on Sauce-Pecan Street. On the north side of the street, there's a pond. The homeowner notified the parish that they thought they had a bubble site. We did go out and sample the bubble site. The initial sample from that bubble site in the pond plots right halfway between. And the interpretation of that is we now have a mixed gas coming up in that bubble site. So we do have gas, we do have some pretty strong isotopic data now that says at least some of the methane in the community that's being detected has moved its way up from depth and is now coming up into the shallow part of the system. The question that came up, does that change the evacuation order? And my answer is no. We've been dealing with methane. It's just a different source of the methane. It doesn't make it any more or less dangerous than it was 2 months ago. We do have methane. We do see bubbling. The commissioners drove around the community and looked at some of the bubble sites in the community. Now we know at least one of the bubble sites has a direct connection to the gas coming up through the disturbed rock zone into the aquifer and is coming up in the other bubble sites. The cavern update is the bottom has been tagged, the roof of the cavern, or the floor of the cavern has come up. It's now within about 100 feet of the top of the cavern. It's got actually about 119 feet to go as of April 6th. We did have multiple seismic events in April, and we've learned to interpret these, and we know when the cavern's filling up from the seismic events. And it wouldn't surprise me with all the activity we had in April if the cavern now isn't almost full. The little bit of good news is once the cavern gets full of whatever material is filling it up, that is going to start the process towards stabilizing the whole situation. It's not going to mean the day it's full, it's stable. And the stability group spent a lot of time talking about that. We've got some world experts on this. But once the cavern gets full, that's the next step towards stability. Now, how long is it going to take for full stability? I can't answer that. But this is where the cavern is. The other thing is the cavern has pressured up now to about 500 psi. Texas brine has tried to bleed that pressure off. That has not been successful. We don't know exactly why the cavern is holding 500 pounds pressure. The experts, the stability experts, have got various ideas. They're working that into the Blue Ribbon Commission work. But right now, that's where the cavern stands. It's going towards stability because it's slowly filling up. That's a good thing. But what happens after that, the experts are going to be working on that. This is what the fill rate looks like. This is a graph you've seen before. It was first tagged by Texas Brine the end of September. The fill rate was very gradual. Then, along about the 19th of January, we started feeling a lot of micro-earthquakes. We started seeing a lot of activity in the sinkhole. We knew something was going on. The fill rate increased. The well into the cavern was blocked from about the end of January until the first part of April. When Texas Brine reopened it, and you can see what the fill did. So it's filling up quite rapidly now. And the fill rate's much faster now than it was through the end of last year. The sinkhole continues to change. This is what it looked like the first March. We do have a first part of April survey from Miller Engineering. I just haven't had a chance to work it up into a nice pretty picture. What is going on though, as people suspect from the air photos, the sinkhole is getting bigger with time, and the volume of water in the sinkhole is increasing with time. And you can see the graph here. Initially, last October, when it was first surveyed by Texas Brine, the volume of the water in the sinkhole was about 500,000 cubic yards. We are now up to approximately 1.5 million cubic yards of water. So right now, the volume of water in the sinkhole, which means the hole in the ground, is about 3 times bigger than it was last October. In addition, the surface area that you can see on the air photos, and Miller Engineering and CD&I define it the same way by the minus 10-foot contour. The current area of the sinkhole is 15.1 acres. That is an increase of 2.7 acres from March. The total settlement area, according to the Miller Engineering report, is now 37.5 acres. That was also an increase. The volume of the sinkhole, as you can see here, increased about 300,000 or 400,000 cubic yards in March. This correlated very nicely with that steep fill of the cavern, and we think what's going on, there's pretty good communication with the caverns filling up. Well, the dirt has to come from somewhere, and so the sinkhole is settling down. The sinkhole hole, as it were, is getting bigger because material is going out the bottom and filling up the cavern. In late March and early October, there was a partial collapse of the Oxy 3 pad that was discussed in the press. That actually was pretty much anticipated from the growth we saw in the sinkhole and the existing surface monitoring that was being done. That didn't mean it's more or less stable than it was. It was just part of the natural expansion of the sinkhole. The gas thickness map, we showed you this last March. This is our latest interpretation. This is the daily flare total from Texas Brine, starting back in November when the flaring started. In February, late February, Texas Brine added a lot of new wells. Up till then, we only really had 4 wells flaring gas. I think they're up to about 30 wells installed. The wells, they picked up the flow rate initially, and they decreased through time. That's one of the things that we're working with Texas Brine experts on, is this decline. In addition, the Blue Ribbon Commission is looking at the decline, and is there a way to build maybe better wells so we can sustain the flow in a given well for a longer period of time. Right now, they're up to about 14 million cubic feet of gas flared. In conclusion, this is what the sinkhole looks like now. It's about 1,000 feet across. It's about 800 feet wide. The gas is still coming up, we believe. We have seen no decrease in any of the bubble sites that we surveyed around the bayous. We do have pressure monitor wells. Texas Brine has installed several pressure monitor wells. Right now, those pressure monitor wells, we have seen no overall decrease in pressure. They're still running at about 55 to 58 PSI. So a lot of venting has gone on, which is good. But right now, we're still holding pretty high pressures in the top of the MRA in the gas column. Questions?
Okay, now the volume of material that has sunk, I'm talking about the entire volume of it that has sunk. Does it correspond with the original volume of the salt cavern?
Right now, the volume of the sinkhole that is sunk is about 40